Hi all. Today in this session, we will check how to use context variable in Talend Open Studio. But before going into context variable, let's see which type of scenario we will be using context variable. Like suppose say I'm reading a data from a file and the directory or the file name might be changing based on the requirement. I might need to change the file name based on the environment. Like in development, the directory might be we might be having one type of directory, and in QA I might be having one type of directory. The directory name should may be changing, or even the file name may be changing. So for such type of scenarios, we should not be hard coding anything. Rather, we should be providing that value during the runtime execution. So for such type of scenarios, we are using context variable. So let's see how we can use context variable. So for that, first of all, what I'll do, I'll take a input file. So here now I'll use the input file is tFileInputFullRow. So in the earlier session, we have checked other input variable components like tFileInput, delimited, uh, and tJSON. We have checked other files. Today we will see how to use tFileInputFullRow. So unlike tFileInput delimited, tFileInputFullRow, what it does, it reads the complete record without considering any delimiter. It will read the entire record, and it will only have the uh, row delimiter instead of any column delimiter. So let's see what all are the properties available here. So I have pulled tFileInputRow. So here you can see I have the file name, then the row separator. I don't have any column separator. I have only row separator because it is reading the entire row as a single record. Then do we have any header or footer? I can write yes, I have one header and skip empty rows. If there are any rows which are not having any value, it is empty, then it will skip that empty row. So these all are the basic properties for tFileInputRow. So let me first check how we will have this. I'll take a file. So if you copy the directory from Windows, you will see there is a forward slash. So in Talend, what you need to do, you need to just change it to backward slash. Then I'll copy the file name. So this is a CSV file. So I provided the file name. Then I'll use tLogRow. I connect this tFileInputFullRow to tLogRow using main. So it got connected. So I'm reading employee salary data. Let me make the header as 0 for the timing. And let me not consider any header here. And tabular format, let me run it. So if you'll see here, the record is the record for that employee salary file that we have selected is, these all are the records: employee ID, month, salary, this is the header, but as we have made that header as 0, so it is considering this as a record, and these all are the records there. Now let me change it to header as 1, and let's run it. So you can see now that header record got skipped, and this is the data I'm getting in the file. So this is how we will use tFileInputFullRow. So as of now, we checked how to use tFileInputFullRow. If you want to read the entire record of a file without any delimiter, without any columns, so we can use tFileInputFullRow. So here, if you see here, I have used in the component and the properties of a tFileInputFullRow, I have hard-coded this particular file name. If I want to change this particular file name, then what I need to do? I need to go to this job, change the file name. Suppose I want to use now employee dimension. So what I'll do? I'll just change the file name, and then I can run the job. Now you can see the data has changed because it is reading a different file. But as a real-time scenario, it is not advisable that I should be changing the code each and every time based on the requirement. So what I should be doing? I should be doing something so that it picks the correct file or the correct directory during the runtime. So to enable this type of feature, we have context variable. So whenever you are creating any job, you can see there is a context variable available here in this. So let me add the context variable here. Let me call that here. So for that, what I'll be using, first of all, what all things I need here? I need the file name. But file name is not sufficient. I need the absolute path also, in which the file is present. So what I'll use? I will use two context variable. One is directory. The data type will be string. Okay. Then I'll add one more. By clicking on this plus, I can add one more variable. And I'll make it a string here. So what will be the directory? I put the directory name. Let me pull the file name also. So here, as it is a string, you can directly provide the values directly, or even you can use you can put that string in double quote. Okay. So now I have put the directory and the file name. Let me call this context variable in the job. So where I'll be using this, I need to use this while calling this file name. So for that, what I need to do, I need to remove all these things. I need to search for the context variable. So how can I bring this? If I write context, then press Control space, it will show me what all are the context variable available for this job. So I typed context, then Control space at the same time. So in this job, I have directory and the file name. So I'll select this directory first. Then I need, along with the directory, I need the file name also. So as this will be this string need to get concatenated with file name, I'll use plus and then again control space by using context. Then select the file name. So here you can see I have used the context variable for directory. Then I have used a plus sign so that both the strings can get concatenated. Then context file name. Now let's run this one. You can see the data is getting fetched by using context variable. So this is how we will be using context variable. So let's check some other values. Instead of employee dim.csv, what I can do, let me use employee salary. So I'll replace this value of context to employee salary. Instead of touching the code, instead of modifying anything in the code, if I simply edit the values in this context variable, then there is no change in the code. Now let me run this and see how the data is coming. It should pull the data for employee salary. So you can see now the data is getting pulled from employee salary. There is one more option in context variable. At runtime, it will ask you to put the value. So for this, here you can see we have a checkbox. So if you just click on that, it while running, you can see active prompt on variable. So when you run the job, if you just select this box, then what it will do, it will prompt what is the file name you are expecting to provide during the runtime. So this basically is used during the development phase to test some data. So you can use this prompt symbol. So let me run this. So here you can see I have selected this particular file name. Let me run this. As I've selected only file name, so it is prompting me which file name you want to execute. And by default, it is employee salary.csv because there I have mentioned it as employee salary.csv. Let me change the file name. So you can see it is showing the data from employee dimension.csv. Okay, so here we learned how to use the context variable, how to provide the data at the runtime. Here, if you change the context variable, the data is not getting, the actual code is not getting modified. At runtime, you can provide the variable, and how you can do prompt operation. But there are few more functionalities also in this context variable. So if you want to delete any particular context variable, you can select this and you can click on cross button. It will get deleted. If you want to change the alignment of this, suppose you want to bring this file name at the top and directory at the down, you can do that using up arrow and down arrow. Yeah, but in the starting of the session I told you that whenever I want to change the environment, suppose currently I'm running this code in development, I will be using one set of file or one set of directory. When I move to other environment, the directory might be changing. So for that, I have multiple options here. For each environment, I can provide the value. So for that environment related thing, I can use the plus sign here, configure context. So this plus sign is used to add the context variable, and this plus sign is used to configure the context, means for which environment you want. By default, it is using this default context environment. Now suppose say I want to add some more context environment. So I'll click on this plus, click on new, type dev, and because this one I want to prefer it for dev. Again click on plus, type test. I want to put this for test. Again click on new, type prod. In your project, you might be having dev, SIT, QA, and prod. So depending on what all environment you have, you can schedule this context environment. Then which one you want to keep it as default? If you select this, then it will create dev as the default one. So whenever you execute anything, I made this dev as a default. You can see dev is the default. So if I go to context, you can see the dev has come as the default one here in this environment. So if I run this, it will pull the data for dev environment. Now, if you want to change the environment, you can click on prod. Suppose I want to run the prod environment. I can select this particular environment, context environment. Then I can click on run. Okay. So let's do some more analysis in this environment related context variable. So I'll unselect this prompt option in all the environment. Now I have the flexibility to change the directory name based on the environment, or change the file name based on the environment. So let me, in this scenario, I'll change the file name just for example purpose. So in default environment, I have employees salary, EMP underscore salary. In development, I have employee salary.csv. In production, I have employee dim.csv. And in test, I have department dim.csv. So this is how the context variable I have set for each and every environment. So whenever I select a appropriate environment, it will pull its corresponding file to execute. So now let's run this. I am selecting prod environment. So in prod environment, what data I have? Department dimension table. So let me run this. As I'm selecting prod, now the department related data should get pulled. Now you can see 5 records got pulled, and let's check the data. It is department related information. Okay. Now suppose say I change it to test. In test, what data we are pulling? In test, we are pulling, sorry, in prod, we are pulling employee dimension related data. So here you can see employee dimension related data is getting pulled. But in test, last one is my test. So test, we are using department dim related information. So let me select the environment as test, and let's run it. So you can see department ID and department name. This data came. Now let me select dev. What is the data I'm pulling for dev? Employee salary.csv. Let's run it. Now you can see employee salary.csv data came. So this is how we will be using context variable. So in this session, we learned how to use tFileInputFullRow component, what all are its properties, and how to use context variable, how to change the variable context, how to provide a value at the runtime using context variable, how to define different environment for the context variable. So this is how we will be using context variable. Hope this session is helpful. If this session is informative, then please like and share the video and subscribe the channel for further updates. Thank you.